For over a week now, I've had an earworm. You know, these get annoying after a while. And to make matters worse, it's a Disney song. I have this 5-year-old, and we have been watching, hey Charlie, what movie have we watched recently? A new movie for you. Frozen, she says. Frozen. It's a new movie for her because it's already 10 years old. My goodness. On the plane from the Mennonite conference a few weeks ago, I decided to rewatch it and to see if I thought that it was appropriate for my 5-year-old daughter. Because the thing is, I have a beef with most princess stories, at least those that promote the idea of needing a Prince Charming in order to save the princess from whatever someone thinks she needs saving from. Not my jam. So I approved of the critique in Frozen of the idea of marrying someone you've only known for one day, the critique that they have of marrying someone that you've only known for one day. The song in my head hasn't been the overwhelmingly popular Let It Go, although that could start a new earworm, right? But the one Princess Anna and Prince Hans sing together near the beginning, love is an open door. Here they are. With you, they sing, love is an open door. Say goodbye to the pain of the past. We don't have to feel it anymore. It's a way of bringing order to chaos. I love that this image of the giant moon in the background, which might be read as romance or being moonstruck, aka lunacy. The assumption about love and relationships at work here is that finding the one is key to a flourishing life. We want someone who will be present with us, physically by our side on this journey through life. We think that this person will complete us and bring order to the chaos of life. So, coming to our story in Exodus 13, I began thinking about presence in a different way. In a different way before this earworm had come along. So for some context, this is the story that comes right before the one that Nathan shared with the kids earlier. The story that we heard read from Lynn a few moments ago comes in the middle of a dramatic series of events. As the story in Exodus goes, the people of Israel were initially welcomed into Egypt because of Joseph, the great-grandson of Abraham, who saved all of Egypt from a famine. Over time, Joseph's family grew so large that when a new Pharaoh came into power, he was fearful of this huge group of immigrants becoming too powerful. So he made the decision to round them up and put them into forced labor to keep them under control. Eventually, God sends Moses to lead Israel out of Egypt some 400 years later and back to the land of their ancestors in Canaan. But it's not as straightforward as all that. Pharaoh, of course, doesn't want to lose this labor force. And so an epic battle between God and Pharaoh ensues, with Moses functioning as the spokesperson. Key here is a strong sense in which the battle is a contest to determine who is truly the master of creation, who is able to defeat the forces of chaos that these plagues represent. With the final plague comes the institution of the Passover meal, memorializing the night on which the angel of death passed over all of the houses of the Hebrews that had painted their doorposts with lamb's blood. But death did come to the houses of Egypt, including Pharaoh's own. In the wake of this devastation, the Egyptians practically begged the people of Israel to leave. They were allowed not only to take their own livestock, all the jewelry and clothing they asked for from the Egyptians was given to them as well. Anything, it would seem, to get them gone. And so, the text says, they plundered the Egyptians. And that's how we come to have this powerful image of the presence of God in our reading today from chapter 13, which comes just before the crossing of the Red Sea or the Reed Sea. Lynn read this so well. They set out from Sukkot and camped at Etham on the edge of the wilderness. The Lord went in front of them in a pillar of cloud by day to lead them along the way, and in a pillar of fire by night to give them light, so that they might travel by day and by night. Neither the pillar of cloud by day nor the pillar of fire by night left its place in front of the people. A pillar of cloud by day to lead them along the way, and a pillar of fire by night to give them light. How many times have I read this story and never noticed the beauty of these words and image together? Even the rhymey, sing-songy bit, I don't actually mind, I usually do. But in this case, I rather appreciated it. The strong physical presence of God could be seen and experienced in a very physical way, both day and night. Chapter 13 concludes, neither left its place in front of the people. This is exactly what Princess Anna in that Frozen movie wants, the presence of someone by her side. She's lost both of her parents. Her sister Elsa has shut her out for reasons unknown to her at this point, and they live in isolation. It's understandable. And it's what we all want, right? That sense of presence. This is also the basis of incarnational theology. The idea that God really is with us and not just out there somewhere. In last week's service, we had a bit of Christmas in July with the reading from the Magnificat in Luke chapter 1. So maybe we can do a little bit more Christmas in July today with John chapter 1. This is another reading that typically comes at Christmas time. It's a great big cosmic creation poem about God with us in the form of the Word, capital W, identified as Jesus. In his book, The Universal Christ, Richard Rohr reads this poem, all things came into being through him, and without him not one thing came into being, and says this means the Word, Christ, is like God's fingerprint on all creation. So God isn't just present out there in a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. And God isn't just present in the historical person of Jesus. God is present, and God's fingerprints can be seen in all of creation, including you. God's presence is within you. And because of this, you're already complete. So Princess Anna isn't exactly wrong that presence is the antidote to isolation. And she's also not alone in her sentiments. Joe ran a quick search of how many songs out there have lyrics including "by my side." I'd actually love to hear any guesses. Any guesses, just shout them out. I want to check my assumptions with other people. Any guesses? How many lyrics out there to songs? How many songs out there with lyrics including "by my side"? 50? 423. 424. Oh. Excellent. I like where this is going. Anybody else? 422. Oh. Okay, so I was going to guess something like 20 or 30,000. That was my guess. Joe, do you remember how many? 3.25 million. 3.25 million. We kind of just stopped for a moment and as we absorbed this. Apparently, there's a very common sense of poets and songwriters that the presence of another by our side can bring order to the chaos of life. But we know that life is not a Disney movie and that there's kind of no such thing as happily ever after. then what difference does God's presence within us actually make? The chaos doesn't go away, but the way that we experience chaos does change. The way that we suffer because of it does change. So I want to take a moment to really sit with this. You're welcome to close your eyes or do whatever that will help you to really connect with God, who is within you. So I wonder, what could you do with your life if you weren't overwhelmed by chaos? What could you do with your life if you weren't overwhelmed by chaos? Or said another way, if your life wasn't overwhelmed by chaos, how would you engage in God's mission for the flourishing of all people and all creation? How would you engage in God's mission for the flourishing of all people and all creation? We are already complete. If we really and truly knew this, we would feel fully loved and accepted just as we are. We would stop acting or reacting out of our fears and insecurities. Things other people say and do wouldn't trigger us in the same ways. We could actually look past hurtful actions and see with Christ's compassion the wounded and beloved person in front of us that is in need of hope and healing. What I'm excited about in these texts is that I see a movement, a development of theology and faith, from seeing that God is present out there to the deep and abiding comfort of God who is present within. And so here's the next level discipleship for us today. How can we be present to others? Because when we are present, we bring with us the presence of God, and that means flourishing for all. Amen.